Mabrika. Wow, my people. This is being this podcast is being broadcast through my YouTube channel. So as I post this on Facebook, and I want to tell everybody, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's the same, Silos Congas, YouTube, and subscribe to it. So as I go live, you get this firsthand, and you tell me what you think. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm just reiterating and going over some thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Sort of like the writings in my head, are being manifested. I'm relating that to you. Anyway, I, the last podcast we went over was into the Genesis. Genesis is a Greek word which means generation. So this was the generation book that we went into, and we combined that with some historical, historical facts, stories. You know what I'm saying? When you read on to the stories, because again, as I said, that when you deal with the biblical narratives, you're dealing with a culture, you're dealing with an area and a culture. So in today's day and time, what's going on is that the powerful people, or I'll say the one who seems to put themselves in the hierarchy, they practice a Babylonian concept, Greek, Roman, you know what I'm saying, and a European system. When you look back, to the Babylonians, and you look back to the Greek systems, you know, Romans, and then the first from the Romans went into the European. You look at these civilization and systems. They have a few things that interlock. You know what I'm saying? One of them are the rituals that they perform in the skies. You know what I'm saying? Which is still form. If you look at now, there's a big thing now about pedophilia, and a big thing about sex trafficking, and worshiping in the Bohemian Grove, the Al Malak and Satir, the androgynous statue that has the one hand going down, one hand going back, and the two serpents with the callus, which is the medical symbol. And all of these practices goes all the way back to Babylonia. And being that it goes back into Babylonia, you can also find these practices in the biblical narrative, especially when you go to Leviticus. You're going to see a lot of things in Leviticus. That's the reason why people say, man, everything that the Bible got to be true, because everything that's happening in the Bible is happening now. It's prophecy. And they're not understanding that, first of all, that's the playbook. Everything repeats itself because you have a dynasty from the Babylonian Empire that came out of the Upper Egypt when the Ptolemy took over, right? From Egypt to the Babylonian, and this system carried over and over and over, so it just repeats itself over and over. It just repeats itself because that is their system. It's their playbook. It's these people's playbook. They use these narratives in these books to bury you with polytheism and philosophy and the psychology, all of this. They bury you in these systematic, their systems, their dogma, their doctrine. So you say, well, why is these things happening today? Because, well, it's happening because this is a dynasty that goes back 10,000 years. It's their playbook, and they're the one ushering out this initiative and platforms. They ushering it, implementing it into the societies that they control. So you're stuck in that sunken place. You're stuck within all this narrative that they're giving you. You're stuck on it, and so you think it's replaying in your mind over and over again. It's a programming. It's actually a program. It's a 10,000-year-old program. When I tell you, this can get deep. It's like an onion. You got to peel it back. So that's what we're dealing with today. And that system, that dynasty, they're trying to get an extension, so they can bring in a new fourth industrial revolution. Through the fourth industrial revolution, they're trying to bring in a new, a revised, a renewed system that is still based on the old system. And we're gonna go over that. We're gonna put two and two together on a lot of things. You look at this COVID-19, which is happened 2019, 2020, but it's happening back since 2017. They've been practiced on and off. But then you look at the Spanish flu in 2018 with the Rockefeller Foundation. So it's just carried over to another decade. And now their go-to man is Bill Gates and that foundation. He's got the right, through the Rockefeller Foundation, he's got the right now he's the go-man. He is your personification of that will and testament. He's the Yahuwah. You know what I'm saying? And so he's doing his job. So I wanted to make this podcast and speaking about the term Messiah and Christ, because a lot of our people are throwing that word, which is a trigger word. They throwing that word out a lot, Messiah and Christ. But do they really know what they're speaking about? Do I really know? Well, let's see. Let's do the research. That's it. I find that the first time the word Messiah appears, it doesn't appear as Messiah, Messiah in Hebrew, or Messiah in Arabic. It appears as anointed one. Yeah, it appears in Hebrew, the Messiah in Hebrew, and you'll find that in Leviticus, and it's the Hebrew Strong 1899, or the Hebrew Strong 4886, which is the Mashiach. Mashiach is the anointer, the Messiah. But now, where did the Hebrews get this term from? Where did they get this term from? Well, if you go to ancient Kemet, you have the term Messiah, right? The ancient Kemetic had a ritual where they used the crocodile oil to wipe the face and the head, wash their initiative priests to become anointed. That's what the name Mashiach means, to be anointed, and by oil. And they used the crocodile oil at first to do that. And what does that mean? Is that that person that's anointed and holds that office is capable of wiping the table or cleaning the slate of a person's life. You know what I'm saying? It's like you come to a priest with so much obstacles, you're bombarded by so much, what's the proper way to say? Well, obstacles or burden. And what the priest does is that he wipes. What they used to do is wipe you with a crocodile, or wipe you and give you a clean slate. You know what I'm saying? He has to be also trained in getting into your mental and cleaning out, and for those who fetters, and cleaning out your mind so that you have a clean slate to start over. That's the whole principles that a lot of religions, like the Catholic, that's the principles that is based upon. Okay? It's when you go to see a priest, a spiritual person, able to wipe, masaha means to wipe clean, to bathe, wipe clean. So that's to give you a new start. Okay? And this, you find in the walls of Kemet, one of the first messiahs, if you could use that word, was Asar. Asar came from Uganda, from Lake Victoria, Uganda, all the way up the Nile River. And what Asar wanted to do is he wanted, when he landed in the land of, he went up to the land of Chem. It was known as the land of Chem. And Chem, where they use a Hebrew version of it, which means black. Okay, Chem, in the land of Chem, Asar went up the Nile River, and what he wanted to do is to take all these tribes, teach them about agriculture, and bring them under one banner, under one kingship. That's the reason why he had that crown with the upper Egypt, the white crown, because he wanted to bring everybody under one accord. So he taught them agriculture, he taught them different things, and then Kemet was like a marketplace where they all met. That's the beginning of Kemet. And he went by way of Nubia. And as you see, Nomer also had that ability. He wore that crown also when he went, and he wanted to bring these tribes under one accord under his throne. And that's what Asar was one of the first person to do that. In at that time, the you would have called it Ganawa, or you would have called it Nuba, the continent of what's known today as Africa. Okay. He wanted to bring these tribes together, right? And he taught them agriculture. He taught them, different sciences and stuff like that. So he was one of the first ones to do that. And what happened was, you see, so he was anointed that he was able to wipe the ways of the people, as to wipe them, give them a clean slate under his throne when you look at it. So when you look at those hieroglyphics, you see 12. Those are 12 provinces, 12 kings and queens, right? 12 tribes that he brought under this one banner. But however, that order that he set, those priests of Asar, because remember, when you say Asar, you also mean a people, not just one being. You mean a people. But there's always one that has the crown in Asar, which is the leader, but everybody else is called by his name. You know what I'm saying? And they went in and they taught agriculture and so on, so and so. And they came up, and then you had the city of Waset, which is where you had the rulership, the women, which was the throne, actually was in Waset. Because, as I said before, the woman don't sit on the throne. The woman is the throne. The man can't rule, do what he can do without having the woman as the throne and having the woman okay. That's how it's done in ancient Kemet. When you watch Ramesses, or you see any of those pharaohs sitting on the throne, you on the side, you always see the image of the woman, because she is the throne. He is to sit on the throne to watch and protect that lineage that comes from the woman. It's through the woman's family line that the men are chosen to be kings. That's the way it's done in those ancient practices. So the woman don't sit on the throne. Only on certain occasions she will have sit on the throne, right? When the man is not there. But it's the man that's positioned to sit on that throne to protect it, and she is that throne. Remember, Aset carries the throne on the head. When you look at the symbol of Aset, she got the throne on the head. She carries the throne. She don't sit on the throne. She carries the throne because she is the throne. Okay, and then the man has to sit on that throne, that feminine lineage. So all that to say is this: how does that lead me to Messiah? Well, so the first instance you see in the walls, and you see that he has to go through the hall of judgment. What it is that you have the order of Set, the order of Set, and his order and his people. You see, Asar wanted to bring everybody together and bring them under one banner. Set didn't want that. And it's not a thing that is evil or good. It's just that one has a different ideology, a different doctrine than the other. the Setians didn't want people to abolish their ancestral reverences or keep their identity and not come under one banner. Where Asar wanted everybody to come under one banner. That was the difference between the upper and the lower Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And so this Setian Set in his order, Asar in his order, and they were clashing because Asar had a certain way of doing things. You know, bringing people, like I said, one order. Whereas the Setians had a different way. That priesthood had a different way of doing things. They didn't want to bring people into one order. You know, they didn't want to bring them up to that what they call the new, in this day and time, new world order, right? But anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that because I want to go forward and bring it into today's day and time. So when you look at the walls and you look at the pictures, you see that he is being anointed, and that he and right there is Tahuti is the time, which is the recording, everything that's going on. And then you see him sitting on the throne, that he becomes in white. At first he wasn't in just a cloth, and then when you see him sitting on the throne with his crown, you see him all in white, right? You see him with the white crown, and then you see him dressed in all in white. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. Now, this is an ancient story. It goes way back. When the Babylonians get a hold of it, and the Greeks and the Romans, when they get a hold of this, Christianity get a hold of this, they took, remember what I said, the script, the backstory, they took this story and put it with other stories so as to create a new character so that they can, again, put you in that sunken place. And this is what I wanted to say. So we got the word Messiah means to wipe clean, right? And you even go into the Arabic, Masaha, to brush away, wipe clean, right? And then you got what you call Yesu, who is the Greek word for Jesus in the New Testament. Jesus, or what they call Zeus, son of Zeus. But you check this out. You have other characters in the New Testament that had that name Jesus. Jesus wasn't the only one who was named Jesus according to the New Testament. He wasn't the only one. You had other Jesuses that were there. Matter of fact, Joshua is a form of the name Jesus. Yeshua. Joshua. So Joshua was the successor of Moses. And Moses wasn't allowed to go into the promised land, but Joshua was allowed to go into the promised land. And he led the people into the promised land. Moses never led them into the promised land. It was Joshua that did it. You see, so that story, character, comes into play. Then you had Jesus Justus, who was a Jewish Christian. Actually, Jesus Justus was, I believe, the son of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. They had a son together. Because remember, in that story of Cleopatra and Mark Antony, that's the Roman era, that they had a son. And his name was Jesus Justus. Okay? Then you had Jesus, the son of Eliezer, and that's in Luke 3:24. Now, I can give you sources, the sources of the biblical sources, where you see that this name Jesus appears a few times in the New Testament, that he wasn't the only one, the Jesus that you're thinking about. There were other Jesus that were in there. You had Bar Jesus, who was a sorcerer. And Bar Jesus, when you put the name Bar in front of a name, means son of Jesus. So was this his son that was a sorcerer, a false prophet? You know, all these stories. And he was crucified. Bar Jesus was crucified before the story of Jesus. So all these stories Remember when I told you about script? That sometimes when you make a character or you're writing a book and you take a character, it could be a combination of other different people that you met in your life. Like some screenwriters, you're asking, well, how do you come up with a character like that? Oh, well, I took my father or my mother or so and so person that I read about as the model for this character that I wrote about, and this is fiction, you know, because you have to say that the story of Jesus is non-fictional and that it actually happened. But there's no proof of that. There is no proof of that. Only that you read it in this biblical narrative that it's a translation of a translation, a translation of a translation. You know what I'm saying? It's like they in school, even if it passed from mouth to ear in school. Remember when you get in a row and one person says something in the ear of another person, by the time it passes to here, it's totally something different. Well, that's what translation is all about. So so the idea of Jesus the Christ is also an interpretation of the word Messiah. And they and where do you find that? You'll find that in interpretation. Let me look it up. Oh, in John 1:41. In John 1:41, they they see this, according to this biblical narrative, they see this man coming and they say that's the Messiah who's being interpreted as Jesus because he was in the city of Antioch. Antioch had a lot of priests that were Greek Orthodox priests that were in the Roman, culture, but they were Greek Orthodox. Just like today, you still have Greek Orthodox. You have many different other Orthodox, what they call Orthodox teachings. Okay, same thing in the Roman time. You had Orthodox teaching, and so in John 1:41, you see that it's the interpretation of what Christ is. So then you come up with Jesus Christ, the character. Someone is narrating this. Someone is writing this. Okay, someone, and especially Paul, the what they say the Christian man Paul, who was a self-appointed apostle, they claim, and this character, and then you will have to go back into historical fact to find out who this person was. Who was this Paul? Who was this person that was so much into psychology and philosophy and psychology, who was writing all this down? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, a lot of the books, like I say, was translated and interpreted different. And so you have the character of Jesus Christ being a combination of many, many messiahs, many messiahs. Even King Tut was called a messiah back in the days, because when he came into power, he was about wiping clean the slate of his provinces, his jurisdiction, his kingdom, and that's the reason why he was killed by the high priest A, because he wanted to make a change. He wanted to go back into the worship of Antun, and they didn't want that. They wanted him to keep into practice of Amun. Again, the idea of the changing of the doctrine of wanting people to be a certain way, a new renewing a doctrine, becoming a doctrine. But then you have opposing forces, opposing doctrine. Same story, the conflict. Life is drama. It's a conflict. You learn that in scripts. A good script has conflict in it. That's what makes drama. And you see that playing out here in the biblical narrative. So when it talks about Jesus, that character in the biblical narrative, you have to also, and you look at the story, you look at the backstory, and the backstory to that are all the ones I mentioned. Jesus Justice, that story, you got Yeshua, that story, you got Asar, the ancient story. That's the reason why when you get into Revelation, and it makes a distinguish when he said when so-called John saw A man said, and with the head and hair was white. There's a distinction between the head and hair. That means the head, when you use the word head, and I think in Greek, because the Revelations will be in Greek, is the last translation will be in Greek, and it's kafala. Kafala means head. But when you look at the word head in kafala, you also find crown, the head of the crown. The crown is the head. He wears a white head, a white crown, a white crown. And this, when you look up the word white crown and you see that it goes back into ancient Kemet, the first white crown was the Hedjet that was worn by the Upper Egypt. You see? And that's the reason why, if you look in the scriptures, when you look at the script, it says that out of Egypt I called him. Out of Egypt, that means he's coming out of Egypt. He's coming with a doctrine that's an Egyptian doctrine. An Egyptian doctrine. He's coming out of Egypt with something of substance. He didn't go there just to hang out and do it. He went there to study. And he was called out of Egypt. But that's a little debatable because then you have to show actual sources that he was there studying. But I mean, I'm like, hey, if you look at the situation, the geographics and the story, and you see that there were a lot of sages and priests and even Hebrew priests and all going to ancient Kemet to study under certain priests and certain schools, mystery schools of Egypt. They did it in the Greek, Plato, Socrates did it, the Romans did it. When you go to Vatican City, you see Egyptian statues, Egyptian artifacts, statues. You see the obelisk. All of this because the doctrine is coming out of Egypt. The only thing is they're interpreting, they're translating it, interpreting and changing and renewing it to fit their culture, to cultivate that nature. They're using that as a tool to help them cultivate that nature. So that's where you get Messiah from, Messiah, Mashiach, and that's where you get, the whole character, you know. And when you read Revelation, you got to understand the head, the white crown. You know what I'm saying? This is the image that they're trying to put in front of you. In today's day and time, they're going to interpret it different because, yeah, they're going to take the white crown, which is an ancient Kemetic crown, and his feet is bronze and his hair is white, but his head, the crown, is white. Today's day and time, because of white supremacy, they're going to say that the crown is white, not black. But remember, white and black is a construct, is a new modern construct. It didn't exist back in ancient time because the word they would have used in Greek would have been laos. Okay? So, you know, everything could be broken down. It could be broken down. So when you talk about the story of the Messiah, or when you hear that word Messiah, you got to see Messiah, what it means, and then interpret it as Cristo, which comes from a Hindu word, right? Karast, Cristo, Karast. In ancient Kemet too, Karast, because of the Hindus came into Kemet, left that. It's Karast. It means anointed, anointed on the priesthood. So now you able to also white. Yeah, like a priest in the Catholic Church would be anointed, but they use the olive oil. They anoint themselves, and then he's able to issue you the techniques, the what they call those prayers. Say Hail Mary says at the time. In other words, wipe yourself clean. But that's all deception. You know what I'm saying? You can't wipe your sins clean like that. You're gonna be judged by your sins. You have to amend. You have to answer for all that. If you don't answer it, and you're gonna answer it here physically, it's gonna happen because the laws of nature is at play. And if you don't, someone in your family or someone in your tribe or your community, someone's gonna answer for it in some form or fashion. That's that's how the laws of nature works. Okay, we can go deep into that some other day about laws of nature and how they work. But anyway, um, it's getting dark in here. Can hardly see myself. Can you see me a little bit, right? And let's just leave it like that. You know. Um, so when you talk about the Messiah and you talk about Jesus Messiah and you're looking and you're reading it, you have to read it because a lot of times, like I said, the sunken place, they give you a lot of images. They control the imagery. Like I got people giving me images of this man with long hair and a white robe sitting in the cloud and he's your savior. Okay, if you want to believe in that, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? That's on you. I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm not here to all I can do is relate of and make sense. I think like a scientist, senses, use the sense. Common sense is not so common, they say. But when you learn to use those sense in your mind, the logical senses that make sense of things, you're able to look back and to look at the facts and explore that and see where it leads you to. You know what I'm saying? And free your mind from those imagery. You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. I just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? You know, if that's the portrait of the so-called person you call Jesus Christ, and who drew that portrait, and if that portrait exists, and that's how, you know what I'm saying? It's man, that art that's a portrait, that's an artifact that you'll see in a museum or something like that. You don't see that. You don't see that at all. All you do see portraits, old portraits of so-called the Messiah Jesus Christ, but they don't look like that. Ethiopia has that in their walls. Ethiopia, you know, those priests over there in Ethiopia, sitting over there, the Falashins and stuff, they have portraits over there. Their story. And then you go to ancient Kemet and you see the portrait of Asar sitting on that throne with that white crown. His head is white, and his garb is white. You know what I'm saying? And his feet, his skin is greenish, either black. They show him either real jet black or they show it greenish or bluish. Because when you heat up bronze, copper, it automatically don't turn black. It turns greenish and bluish. Bronze turn bluish and greenish, huge on it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about making having common sense to all this. You know. Hold on one second. There we go. I had to put on some light, a little bit of light in the background over here, even though I'm still a little ugly, but I put on some light in here. But anyway, so I hope that's you know clear. Senses that you know um we got to get out of the sunken place. You know what I'm saying? A lot of you know ideology, philosophy. That they bombard you with so much. You know, I'm just giving you this sort of like when you go around and here and you look at this and that. It's sort of like the kundalini. Your secums and the powers. It shifts from here and there, and you look at so many different sources. You know what I'm saying? And letting you know this is research. You know what I'm saying? I spend hours sometimes researching, and I'm really elated because I studied this a long time ago. But I'm just reiterating it now because a lot of discussions out there, people are wondering. One other thing I wanted to tell you, the reason why I brought it up to today, um, this COVID-19, when you look at it, and remember I told you Bill Gates was given the charge now through you know, through his foundation. One thing I noticed that when the minute that this COVID-19 came out, it went global. It's like the new world order. We're gonna put order globally. It just went global instantly. I'm telling you, instantly it went global. So it's right now it's affecting people globally. There are countries that push back a little bit, you know what I'm saying, that you don't hear much about them because they took their steps in dealing with this. I did research, and yeah, there is disease that can be manipulated to create the same symptoms like this flu. But now, what it is now is Bill Gates sits now like the Messiah. He's going to wipe clean now this disease through vaccination. He's in charge now. His foundation's in charge now. They leading the charge through his foundation. They leading the charge to wipe people clean of this disease by vaccination. And you know what they say? Those that appear to be a Messiah, be careful not to be deceived by them. You know, you got to check out some of the stuff that's coming out now because you got people pushing back. You got whistleblowers and you got people pushing back because it's that same war. You see, the globalists want to control again, keep the control of the world. They're globalists, they elites, that dynasty. They want to keep control. These multi-billionaires want to keep control of the world, but they lost control already. They're just trying to salvage, gain it back. And their man is Bill Gates. And who knows? Somebody could be pulling his string. Somebody could be sitting back in that we don't see, like the he who is hidden and you don't see him. That Yahuwah could be out there pulling those strings and got this man in the front. Don't know. Don't know. Don't want to know. If I come across that and I know, I'll let you know. You know? Because you see there's something here grow. We can't be stuck on just looking at things from our little small world and stuff. Even though our world could resemble, could mimic the outer world. But a lot of people get so contracted that they don't expand their mind. They get contracted and they're like they believe everything that comes into the news and everything that through the internet, but they don't ask questions and they don't use their logical critical mind. They don't, And then some out there, like scholars, get so are also doesn't mean because you got so many books that you read that now you are a master teacher. You know it all. But those books are written by authors. It's being edited. It's written by authors. It has an agenda. I'm not saying everything in those books are not accurate, but I'm saying is that you still have to investigate those books and find out its sources. And then you get so much caught in the source, you get eaten up. You become the source. You get eaten up. You get so much caught in logos, in the writings, in logos. It doesn't make you intelligent than a person who's into natural nature, who meditates naturally and observe natural nature around him and writing his own book in his mind. He's the primary source. You're the primary source when you sit down and you observe it for yourself. But then you got those scholars that always want to put it, well, this person said this, Josephus says this person said, and then you're stuck in those libraries. You're buried in those lies. Look at the word for what it is. Look at it. Make the sense. Make your common sense. Let me hear what you observe. Personally, I want to know what you observe, what you thought out. I want to see your critical mind. How are you thinking about this? What do you see by your natural nature observance, your qualities? That's what I want to see. You know, I can't tell you about relationship by just reading about relationship. I had to be in a relationship and go through those trials of being in a relationship. And then I could tell you, hey, listen, that's wisdom. You walk that, you apply it, you walk that life. I can't tell you about the streets if I never was in the streets. You got these kids want to be gangsters. You were never a gang. You don't live that life. You think you live that life, you want to mimic it, but you don't really know what that life is about. You know? So many master teachers, master teacher, I'm a master at this, a master at that. We'll get into that some other time about the word master and master teacher. Okay. But right now, I just want to end this podcast, and I hope that I made myself clear about Messiah and Jesus Christ, of you know, how I see it and what I read. And I'm reading from same Bible you're reading from, the King James Bible. The thing is that when I see a word, I go deep into the word. I go into the concordance, so I'm going to find out the Greek, and then I'm going to go to the lexicon, the Hebrew lexicon. I'm going to go deep into to find out what the word, get as close as I can to the original content, and then I'm going to go into the historical. I'm going to look at the timeline and the history behind it all, and then I'm going to go seek out here and there and see what, put my theories into practice and put it against other theories and see which one comes out, the conclusion or the indusion, the inclusion. You know what I'm saying? So it's you got to be careful, because people, I tell you, they put you in a sunken place. They program you to think of Messiah, 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 and then they hit you with somebody like Billy Gates. And subconsciously in your mind, you're looking at him as a Messiah, but you're not saying that. But you're looking at him as a Messiah. You're looking at him as the Yahuwah, the Messiah, or Yahuwah, the God who's controlling everything. So what gives him the right to do this? Who is this man? Why? What are you doing? I want to know. How does it benefit me? How? And how does it benefit natural nature? Because I'm on natural nature side. I'm on the side of nature, of natural nature. That's the side I'm on. But I understand about, man and how he create things and whatever, and certain type of men and what they're trying to control. They want to control globally. They want to control. And I understand that this, my thing is, hey, this dynasty is done. It's done. Now let's go. How are we going to survive the fourth industrial revolution? How is robotic? Coding. You know that Bill Gates, since he was 12, I think 12 or 10 years old, was studying coding. He was a child prodigy in coding. That's how he got into Microsoft. Also, Elon Musk, I think, also, right, from Elon Musk, the guy from Tesla. They started coding. You know why? Coding is, when you study quantum physics and you study fractal technology, it's all about coding. You know what I'm saying? Mathematical. Everything around you can be explained mathematically. Everything. The very room I'm sitting in has a mathematical equation, because when you study architecture or you study AutoCAD and MicroStation and Prodigy, all these different programs, you plan and you study how to make plans. And these plans are mathematical equations that a surveyor and the head of the construction comes and they read the plan. You always see them reading the plan to build what they need to build. Well, they're saying also that our bodies, the internet is about coding, algorithms and coding. It mimic the mind. So they created another mind, right? Through coding. So we're looking at individuals, people that are prodigies and study coding since they were 10 or 12 years old. So they're able to create reality through coding. So this can get very, very deep. You know what I'm saying? They think in a very mathematical way. And that's what I try to do. But the human technology, human coding is a different thing now. Human technology, you know, of knowing 357, knowing, the certain coding, prime coding equations that gives you the coding, the differentiate the measurements of the human body, the head, and in conjunction to the body and the arms. This is human technology. This is how the ancient Kemet also used. That was a system of measurement. You know what I'm saying? And everything is done by coding. So the universe could be mapped out. The stars could be mapped out. Certain coding. And that's what I wanted to say. And you know, we're dealing in this this time now that we really got to think things. We really got to think think things out critically, logically. You know what I'm saying? So we cover that. We cover, you know, how, and the whole point I'm trying to make is this whole narrative and this whole concept of Messiah comes all the way back from ancient Kemet and all the way back from the ancient super advanced civilization that existed before this world. This civilization, this world. Before the 10,000 years prior to that, there existed an advanced civilization. You know what I'm saying? And what they practice, on and on and on. And the concept of Messiah, you know, and how they program us to think like that. You know, you yourself, it could be your own Messiah. You can wipe away. You have the right to wipe away your past in terms of what you do in the future. That's alchemy. I could change my past by what I do in my future. What I do now that affects my future and affects also the past. Because what I do now for my future, right? If I make the good steps and the right steps, then when I look into the past, I say I made these steps because I know the past, worked for me because I'm at the level I'm at now. So I have no regrets. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the level that I am now because of my past. And as I look toward my future, better my future, then my past becomes stronger. Stronger. That's when you deal with wisdom, standing in reason, wisdom, and knowledge. You know. Anyway, we'll talk about that future. Let me end it now, and I love you all. And like I said, let's let's get in tune with natural nature, with your personality and character, and let's better that. Let's strengthen that out, okay? All right, and don't let nobody out there manipulate your mind and manipulate you. It's like at the long run, you're the one that's going to decide. Don't let nobody decide anything for you. You decide. Okay, peace.